morning, everyone. Good morning. Good to see you. Hope you had, yesterday was Valentine's Day, right? Hope you did something special for your Valentine. Actually, there's a lot of stories about Valentine and where it came from. But the one I like the best is that St. Valentine was a bishop in Rome at the time when the Roman emperor decided, it was a good idea for him not to allow young people to get married, especially because he wanted them to get them into the army. And we all know that once guys get married, they become much more mellow and responsible. So they're not as good a killing machine, right? So anyway, this was the emperor's idea. He says, well, I'll tell you, if I keep them from getting married, then I'll have more soldiers. Well, there's a bishop, called Valentine, and he thought that wasn't a good idea. And so he went ahead and married people, under the table, so to say. So people could come to him, and he would conduct a marriage ceremony. And eventually they caught him and tortured him, killed him. Anyway, bad ending to the story. But I'm inspired by the idea that really Valentine's Day is about marriage, right? Who thought that? Most things about romance, but really, the foundation is it's about marriage. Well, we're finishing up today the series we've been doing on Tongues of Fire, the power of our words, and the impact that our words can make in the world around us. And every week I remind us about these fundamental truths about the words that we speak. Number one is that the power that our words have, and it's an amazing power, is a gift from God, our Heavenly Parent. It's amazing, this power that God has entrusted us with. God wants us to be co-creators and partners with Him. And so He's giving us this amazing gift of the power of our words. And those words, that incredible power, can build us up or tear us down. This is the challenge. How do we use our words? Are we building up or are we tearing down? Because those words are very powerful. And finally, remembering that the words we use shapes the quality of our life and the quality of our life experience. So, let's pay attention to that. Here's a quote from Father Moon. He says, "Words are the most important thing in our daily life and life in general. We express our thinking with words, and the words we use convey emotion and mood to others. We give excitement or despair to other people. We have to know well what important works the words are doing." So today, to conclude our series, Tongues of Fire, we're going to choose the topic, Words That Matter. We want to look at how our words make a difference, how they can make a difference in what they do. Sometimes we waste this power. The words, sometimes even the way we talk to ourselves is not so constructive and even destructive. So we want to choose words in our lives that make a difference, that make a positive change in our life and the environment around it. So for some fun, I thought I'd pull together, I actually pulled this from another sermon, but some quotes from famous words that you might recognize. And I want to quiz you. Let's see how up you are on your history. So here's the first one. Tell me who you think this is. If you can recognize this voice.
First of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Okay, a little bit of confusion there. Is it Churchill? Is it American? Is it French? Or is it no? Actually, that's Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is what he said. You have nothing to fear but fear itself. And that was the first inaugural address in 1933. Actually, he gave that address at the early part of the difficulties of the Depression. So this is what his inaugural speech. Okay, you did so on that one. Let's give you another chance. Okay, here you go. How about this one?
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Okay, so yeah, you got that one. That one's pretty easy, right? President John F. Kennedy, also in his inaugural address, that was in 1960. That's not what you can do for your country, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Service, right? Okay, that's good. So we'll give you a 1 and 1 here. So let's see how we can do on number 3.
My poor little children, one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Okay, that one, you better get that one right. We just heard that a few weeks ago, right? Yeah, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, that's in 1973, his I Have a Dream speech, very famous speech they did in Washington, D.C. I'm glad you got that one right. I would have been really embarrassed if you hadn't gotten that one figured out. Okay, so here's one a little bit more recent. See if you can get this one.
Mr. Gorbachev, Reagan, tear down this wall.
Okay, you got that? Yeah, tear down that wall. That was President Ronald Reagan in front of the Berlin Wall in Berlin, Germany. And we know that just after that, not too long, we saw the end of communism as we know it.
Amen.
Okay, so one last one. So you're 3 and 1, right? You're doing pretty good. So let's see how you do on this last one. Very important, very significant quote. Okay? Let's see.
Terminator.
I'll be back.
Oh, no. He identified from the music, huh? Okay, that was the Terminator. He will be back, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger, 1984. Actually, I even heard the Terminator is back, that there's another sequel. You know, there's another sequel coming out this spring or something. So, these words definitely made, in history, right? They're things that are part of our culture, part of things that we know and we care about. So, when we think about words that matter, words that last and have a difference, we can think in our own lives about words that people have spoken to us. And I encourage you to do this journal exercise to reflect on, in my life, what are the words in my life that I've received that made a difference? Maybe it was from your parents, maybe it was from a coach, maybe it was from a friend when you're having a particularly difficult time. It's amazing if you think about some memories go all the way back, 100 years ago, when I was young, to childhood. To remembering just the conversation that we had, even just something I had with my dad that says, yeah, I know you can drive that car, and I got my license before I'd even had driver's education. Back then it was allowed, right? I passed my driver's license test and I didn't even know how to drive yet, But he expressed confidence in me, so I learned how to drive with my driver's license, right? After having it. So even I have discovered, and maybe you know this fact already, that we forget 90 to 95% of the words we hear within 72 hours.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah. Sometimes it's even shorter. And who knows, so that means probably next Wednesday you'll have forgotten everything I've said, except for I'll be back, right? So how do we improve that number, right? The most basic thing is if we write as well as hear, that increases our retention to, like, maybe we're holding instead of just 5 or 10%, it's more like 30 or 40% that we can remember if we've written it down. In fact, in my wallet, I have a little calendar thing. I don't use it for a calendar. Actually, it's my notepad. So in my wallet, and I know nowadays they have electronic, probably on your phone, you can even write notes down. But I take it out, when I go visiting church, listen to a sermon, I always write things down. The truth is that many times I never go back and look at those notes, but the fact that I've written it down helps me remember. So I encourage, bring your notepad to church. Who knows? You might even hear something you want to remember, want to keep track of. So, let's look at 5 areas in our life where we can produce words that matter, that make a difference. The words that change our environment and change the world around us. Now, the first area that we can look at real quickly is we offer words of encouragement. Encouraging words. Going back to that Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he's famous for establishing what was called fireside chats, where he would get on the radio and he would talk people through the difficult times and just offer words of encouragement. You know, there was the Depression. A lot of people had many difficulties, and he spoke words of encouragement. And even when World War II began, he would give reports in his fireside chats, and people would gather around the radio to listen to these words of encouragement because they gave hope and vision. Well, if you think about it, in our lives, we have opportunities all the time to offer encouraging words, but many times we don't. Here's what Paul has to say about encouraging words. He says, I'm eager to encourage you in faith, but I also want to be encouraged by you. In this way, each of us will be a blessing to the other. Sometimes our style of encouragement is not all that encouraging. You know, we have a tendency, I don't know, maybe it's just me, you know. I think I'm being helpful when I point out and say what people are doing wrong. You know, I'm trying to help out, right? You know, pointing out their mistakes and saying, oh, you know, you did that wrong, and giving a reason, explain it, and then say, but if you'd done it this way, it would have worked better. Now, do you feel encouraged when someone tells you what you did wrong? Yeah, you know, it depends on how they do it, I guess. But a lot of times we think we're encouraging when actually we're discouraging. I run into this all the time with Eleanor. Many of you know she does amazing work with videos, produces phenomenal things. Well, you know, I'm quick to chime in with, oh, you know, you know, my 2 cents about this and that. The thing is, Eleanor is very meticulous, and she invests a lot of time to create a video that she really feels proud of. Me, I'm, get it done. You know, good enough, get the video done, right? So when I come with my, it's good enough advice, is that encouraging to her? No. You know, I have to be careful. I might get something thrown at me, right? Be quiet, let me do it my way. Because she's investing her heart. You know, so I'm coming in giving my 2 cents, and I'm not being encouraging. Instead, if I acknowledge and recognize what she's doing and provide support, and maybe, instead of saying, when are you going to clean the dishes, I guess I could go clean the dishes, right? Or at least I could ask Renata to do it, right? We can find ways to encourage and speak encouraging words to each other. It's something that we need to do intentionally. We need to make active effort to intentionally encourage other people and make our words be things that nourish and encourage the people around us. You know, pay attention that sometimes what we think is encouragement isn't really encouragement. So, this week, I encourage you to pay attention to the comments that we make to other people. You know, and especially if you think about people who are struggling or dealing with challenges in their life, you know, don't try to fix them. Provide encouragement. It's like my dad, when I got the license. Okay, great, I've got a license and I'm scared to death. He gave me confidence. He says, I believe in you. If we express even the fundamental thing, I believe that you can do it. This is one of the most encouraging things that we can do for people, is let them know that we believe in them, that we have confidence in them. You know, whether it'll take a long time or a short time is not as important as we know that in the end they will accomplish it. This is the kind of encouragement. These encouraging words really matter in the lives of the people around us. So, next, my words matter when also I confront someone with my words who's doing something unjust. You know, when we use our words to confront injustices. Now, the examples, of course, Rev Dr. Martin Luther King, he spoke out very, very eloquently, right, about the sin of racism and discrimination. You know, and his words impacted the world. He spoke out. President Reagan, you know, spoke clearly about the problem of communism, you know, and the lack of freedom. He spoke out. Now, you and me, well, maybe me, but we don't necessarily have 1 million people that are going to listen to the words that we're speaking, right? But we do have people in our lives, you know, that sometimes are doing the wrong thing. And when God calls us, there's things that we know and we recognize, oh, this is an injustice, but it's really not anything I can particularly do. But at least I can speak an alternate point of view. I can share something. And rather than let that injustice or that evil stand, I can share another point of view, another perspective. Here's again from St. Paul. He says, love is never glad about injustice, but rejoices whenever truth wins out. God often puts on our hearts, we should say something about what's going on, about this injustice. It could be situations that, like maybe at work, people are just talking bad about, destructively about another person. This isn't right. And I just sit there and, well, am I just going to be quiet and act like I agree? Or am I actually going to speak up? Right? A few weeks ago, we focused on speaking out. God calls us to do things. We can't speak out on everything, and that's not necessarily our mission to speak out on everything. But God, when God calls us, tweaks our conscience and tells us we need to, speak out against this wrong thing, then we need to take action. Another example is bullying. Bullying in school. When we see injustices, we need to speak. So our words make a difference. They matter in the world when we confront injustices and wrongs. We don't just let them slide. Well, so encouraging words and words that confront injustices. Well, the third way we can express words that matter is through expressing love. Now, again, this is an intentional expression of love. That's guys all the time, she knows I love her, right? So, of course, yesterday we had the opportunity, right, to show some love, right? To give some action to express that love. But a lot of times we save our most hurtful expressions for the people that are closest to us. Sometimes we can be downright nasty to the people that we love. We think, they know I love them, so they can take this mean things that I sometimes say. And actually, it's not healthy. It's something good for us to pay attention to. There was an interesting study out of the University of Denver. We've actually talked about this before, where they studied couples and their language, their conversations with each other. And the couples who stayed together for over 10 years, in the beginning time, the researchers could tell, they counted up in their conversation, what was the ratio of negative comments to positive ones. And for the couples that they had, their average was like 5 negative ones for every 100 comments that they made. Those couples, they tended to last. The couples who had an average of 10 or more, just twice as much, they were much less likely to still be together after 10 years. And that number increases the more the ratio of negative expressions. Actually, hostile words or things that put down or insult another person, they're destructive. It erodes a relationship, and it's so easy to do it. We don't think about it. We love my husband, my wife, my friends. They understand. I'm just trying to be helpful. Sometimes our sarcasm is not so helpful. It's downright destructive. It's very interesting that one of the strongest predictors that they have for how long a marriage will last is this indicator of conflict, abusive language. It's kind of surprising, but that we know the power that our words have. Even we say, it doesn't matter. It does matter, right? The words we make. So to make that extra effort to express love and caring, it's interesting. I was thinking about this. Here's from 1 John in the New Testament. Dear children, let us stop just saying we love each other. Let us really show it by our actions, right? Now, at some point, when I was working on this sermon, I thought about, I don't remember when it was, but at some point, my mom started ending all of her phone calls with, I love you. She didn't say goodbye. She said, I love you. That was like the last word that she put into the... I thought, so I was thinking about this sermon. I thought, yeah, that's good. So I asked her, why did you do that? And she says, well, I never know if I'm going to be around after this phone call. And I want the last word that I say to be positive, to be, I love you. So even if I get hit by a car or whatever, the next day, I will know, and they will know, that I expressed my love. She wants to be sure that the last words people remember from her are, I love you. It's a positive word. Think about it. What was the last words that we left with the people we love? If suddenly today it stopped, would we have left a positive word? Something positive? Let's show our love practically and intentionally by using good, positive words to express that love, especially to the people who are important in our lives. Let's express that love. Use those powerful words that we have to bring healing and nurturing. So, words make a positive change in the environment. The words really matter when we use them to encourage someone, especially those who are facing challenges or struggling. When we use it to confront someone who's doing something wrong or an injustice. And when we use those words to express love, especially the people that we care about. So the fourth thing, if you think about it, the most important relationship in our lives and the lives of all people is our relationship with God, our Heavenly Parent. So, isn't that the most important thing for us to share with other people? So, words that matter, we have these words that we know are going to make in the relationships that exist, but our words, when we share about God and God's truth, these make a difference in the world. If you think about your own life, especially those of us who converted to the Unification movement, there were some words that we received that gave us insight and made us make a change in our lives. Now, when I talk about sharing God with people, I'm not talking about, give people a divine principle lecture. Okay? My friends, over lunch, did you know that God has dual characteristics? That there's the Sung Sung and the Hyung Sung characteristics, and no, that's not what I'm talking about. Not a lecture on theology. What's the most powerful way for us to share God, to share our church with other people? It's not first through theology. It's by sharing our own story. Tell our story. How has God made a difference in my life? Especially, for those who's converted. Before the church, what was it like? What happened to me and to help me change? And how has my relationship with God changed and grown since I've been part of this movement, since I'm studying the divine principle? Tell our story. So people can critique and argue theology all day long, but actually people enjoy hearing our story. Hearing, this is your testimony about your life. I'm interested in you. I like you. I know you as a person. So I'm kind of curious. Tell me about it. This is we're not threatening people. We're not, we're just sharing who we are. Now, the challenge that some of us older folks have is we need to look at how alive is our relationship with God. Do we have a testimony? If we look and think, now, how did God work in my past week? And if we can't recognize that, we don't see something, then we should pay attention and find it. Because God is always working in our lives. So, what a good homework assignment for us is plan out my testimony. Now, I'm not talking about your autobiography or your life thesis or something like that. I'm talking about maybe 100 words, one page, where you just write out your story and your experience and relationship with God that you can genuinely share with other people. Think it out. Write it out. Spend some time, invest some time, and put it down on paper. Once you've written it down, then it becomes natural for you to have something that you can easily share. Now, those words become precious to other people when they hear our testimony about our real life. Now, other way that we can share about God and also share about the church is just to invite people to come to church. Now, Sunday, we have Sunday service and we have a certain kind of format, and I'm open to suggestions. What's going to make this service more friendly for you to bring your friends, that you'll feel comfortable with. Fortunately, we have a great band now today, amateur day aside. We have an amazing band doing great work, and we work to always make the Sunday service a friendly place. My mom, she's been coming for maybe half a year now, but she always says, her favorite part is, of course, lunch afterwards, right? Because that's when you talk with each other. She says, your people are so nice, and have great conversations, right? Of course, she has to say, and the sermon was really good because, her son. I hope anyway, But she, and so she, it was a very good sermon. But boy, that conversation was so much fun talking with Lenita, and it's just such neat people, and, we do have it's a nice environment, and we want to concentrate and conscientiously create that nice and friendly environment. Now, church doesn't work for some people. That's why also on Saturdays, our Divine Principle study, it's much different. If you've gone to workshops before, that's one format. Stand up front and I try to take my fire hose and put as much knowledge into you as I can, right? Well, we've actually changed that. Now, so it's more of a fellowship and exploration time. In fact, yesterday we didn't have any lectures, no PowerPoint presentation. What we did was we explored the challenge of understanding, if God is all good, how come God let the fall happen? And actually we had a very profound discussion exploring that, and each person had a chance to share their perspective and their understanding. And we have one good friend who's basically says, I don't know about this God. I think he's just a fantasy. But he really enjoys the chance to be able to share and to explore ideas. And everyone, I do my best. I'm the facilitator. I try to get everyone to come on, you can say something. But inviting people to share their opinion. Because the truth is, once you open up the faucet, get them to share once, well, then it's like, okay, let's give someone else a turn, right? But we like to share. And it's always nourishing and uplifting when people share from their own perspective. I always learn stuff. Even a whole different take on understanding the fall just kind of came out of our discussion. Very powerful and very meaningful. So I encourage you. We have Sunday service and of course we have our Saturdays, but all kinds of young people events that Peter and Mifa are trying to do, that we want to make it friendly for people. So words that matter in life is, of course, encouraging people, being encouraging to others, confronting injustices, expressing love, but also people are desperate to understand who God really is. And people, they want to have a genuine experience and loving relationship with God. And we have something to offer there. Not that we're going to force something down their throat or, convert. I'm not even that worried about converting. I'm worried about people knowing God and having a relationship with God. So, these points, encouraging, dealing with injustices and expressing love and sharing God, these have a lot to do with our relationship with other people, our interaction. The last point I want to talk about, in words that matter, really has to do with our relationship with God. These are words that matter to us in our lives and also that matter to God. Saying yes to our Heavenly Parent. Our words and our expressions in our relationship with God. God is calling us all the time to be partners. God's desperate to find partners. God's not looking for servants anymore. He's got servants. He's got a lot of servants around the world. People at least that say that I'm God's servant. What God needs are now people who will be partners with God, to work together to bring about the healing that this world desperately needs. If you think about it, our challenge in life comes from our separation from God in many ways. So if we use our words to actually affirm that relationship and affirm our vision and perspective. Now, in our Unificationist tradition, we've got two clear ways where we do that, right? The marriage vows, right? the blessing vows, when we declare before God and the universe. We make our pledge to God. But also, on a daily basis, we offer up our family pledge, where we're promising to God that as people who are responsible for the heavenly kingdom, that we're going to build an ideal family, that we're going to live for the sake of, all of these things that we say in our daily pledge. This is part of our Unificationist tradition. What we're doing in these daily affirmations is we're promising God, we're putting our words out to God. These matter. They change us, and also they encourage and give hope to God, our Heavenly Parent. And of course also the words that we share with God in prayer and reflection. The prayers we take and then the actions that we take based on those prayers. So our lives, God has so much hope for us. The potential that we have. God just is excited. He can't wait to see what each one of us are going to do with all the amazing potential that He's given us. God's so excited and wants to be a partner with us. So let's say yes to God. Invite God in and use our words, our affirmations. And in the beginning of March will be the annual blessing of marriage ceremony. Well, I'm going to invite all of us to use that time to reaffirm our vows. Those of us who are already married, to join together with the people who are participating in the holy marriage blessing for the first time, or even getting married for the first time. That we ourselves also affirm and express with our words the affirmation of the holy marriage vows and pledge that we've made. So, here's from Father Moon. He says, in all religions, they teach people not to look at, listen to, speak to, or treat people carelessly. This means that you should do everything, look, listen, talk, feel, and love, centered on God. You should not do so centering on yourself. Again, we use the expression centered, talking about focus. God is the focus in our life, the center point. So, let's practice building more and more these words that matter. Words that are encouraging, that confront injustice, that express love, that share God, and affirm our commitment in our relationship with God. Let me close with this quote from Father Moon. He says, I ask that all of you become heavenly spokespersons, become God's representative and His substitute. This is what we're called to be. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, Father, Mother God, our loving Heavenly Parent. We are so grateful for your presence in our lives and the amazing power that you've given us, with the power of our words, the power to create. Heavenly Parent, you gave us this amazing power, and yet we have to come before you in repentance at how many times we've misused and abused that power, and even used it in destructive ways towards others, and even destructive ways towards ourselves. Heavenly Parent, we want to continue to grow. We want you to be able to work clearly in our lives, and that we can be people who express genuine joy and genuine fulfillment. We ask for your guidance and presence, that we can become more aware that our words do matter. Our words make a difference in the world around us. Let us become conscientious people that can make a positive difference everywhere we go, everywhere we speak. Thank you, Heavenly Parent, so much for your love, for your presence. And we invite you again today as we reaffirm our commitment and our love for you and our love for the people in this world, your children. We ask you to join us, and we offer up this prayer as your grateful sons and daughters and as blessed central families. Amen and adieu.